Visit Rotarians. First we have Beaver Hardy from Columbia East. Beaver. Wherever. Thank you.
He's in the back of the room.
There you go, found it. Okay, good. Okay, and then we have a visiting Rotarian from Tyler, Texas, and Mr. D.M. Edwards, and we're going to have a little flag exchange here real quick.
Come on up so everybody can see our guest from Texas. This guy drove a long way to come to our Rotary. Thank you very much. Our first Tyler, Texas flag right there.
I can't be 100% sure, but I believe my wife wasn't not born there, but she has family in Tyler, Texas, so we have been through there, which is very ironic. And at this point, well, guests, if you have a guest, would you please stand up and introduce your guest? We'll get, who wants to do the mic? Al, thank you very much.
I have a guest today, Will. My son Jacob. He's gone to work with me. He's the youngest of 5. There will be no more Stevensons coming along. Regular kids. We did have a grandchild this summer, so you never know. Might still be around here in 20 years introducing another employee. Jacob Stevenson.
Look, Bodyford, and I have as my guest Don Mobley, one of the partners in Scott & Co.
Okay, Charlotte, South Carolina Department of Commerce, and my guest today is Alice Curtin Braxton with the Education Council of the United Way of the Midlands.
Any other guests? Okay, we got one right.
I don't think there are any other guests, is that right?
That's right.
John gave me a moment to say something about Harvest Hope, to remind you again to sign up if you're able to, any able-bodied men or women that can put it on their calendar for Wednesday, October 12th. Next week we do not have a meeting here, we have a social on Monday. It'd be the 2 days after that, the 12th. From 3 to 5 in the afternoon, and then a little time at River Rat Brewery if you're if you want some iced tea or adult beverage. It is a great activity. If you have children over 16 that need to have a project and would like to do it, let me know also. They can participate if they would like to. Thank you very much.
Let me quickly see some hands, because we do have to have about 15, 18, maybe 20 people to do this.
We got 6 right now.
You got 6 right now. Can we see some hands here for who thinks they might be able to show up that haven't signed up? Okay. I think we're good, yeah. See Lane if you would afterwards. Thank you. Now, I would like for all of you to get up, move around, shake hands, say hello to some folks. I hate to interrupt your meeting, but please do that for just a minute. How are you? Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for helping us make this a friendly place, a place where folks enjoy coming and enjoying fellowship. As part of the process that I'm trying to accomplish this year, I want us to meet more of our members, to know a little bit about them. And I have with me a member who was a member previously, and then for a little while he was not a member, and then now he's back as a member. So Mark Lett, one of our new members, would like to tell you a little bit about himself.
I am some of you may know I'm the editor of the state newspaper, so we're more accustomed to telling stories about other people than about ourselves. But I appreciate the chance to do this, and I appreciate even more that John did this and didn't ask Rusty to tell you about it. I'd also like to thank Dot Ryle, who 18 years ago made my wife and I feel comfortable when we came to Columbia, and was my original sponsor to join the Rotary Club, so I appreciate that. Dot's here today. And I also like to thank Bob Crutchfield, who sponsored me as a returnee, as a lapsed Rotarian. It's nice to be back in the club, so thanks Bob for that. Next year will be my 50th year in the news business. I started out as a copy boy at my hometown weekly newspaper, is Lincoln Park, Michigan, which is the industrial downriver part of Detroit, if anybody's familiar with Detroit. That's where the auto plants are and that good stuff. And like a lot of people in that area, my family came to Detroit from the coal mines and the steel mills of Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania. It's a very blue-collar upbringing, and the homes were very much like what you might find in Kassy, West Columbia. When you grow up in that part of Detroit, you don't really talk a whole lot about career aspirations. You talk about getting a job. And usually people took guys usually took three career paths out of there. One was to go work in the auto plants, usually Chryslers or Fords. One was to go in the military. And a few of us were fortunate enough to go to college. I caught a break early on when I was in high school, getting a job as what they call a copy boy at a newspaper. I don't know if you ever heard of what the copy boys were, but basically we filled glue pots and we ran briefs out to advertisers and did just about everything that needed to be done other than reading a copy or writing stories. That included cutting the grass for the publisher on weekends. And that's true. I had a big yard. But I was blessed to work there with some very caring and sharing people who gave me the opportunity to do a little bit of writing. First doing wedding announcements and things like that, and then a little bit of sports writing, and then finally some news writing. And I was immediately on newspapering. I liked everything about it. The reporting, the writing, the being in and around news, whether it was sports or politics or crime or plain old human interest stories. It was a good thing that I liked it because I was lousy at math, I was worse at science, and even worse at shop class, so I really didn't have a lot of choices. But I began working afternoons and weekends at the paper, and my folks and I were fortunate enough to send me off to college. My dad was a steel worker, and my mom a sales clerk. And I went up to Central Michigan University for a couple of years and studied journalism. Up there I worked editor of the paper and worked at the local print shop, and came home a lot of weekends to cover football and basketball games for the hometown paper. I transferred to Wayne State University in Detroit, where I was lucky enough to get an internship to the Detroit News. And once I started working there, that was it. I pretty much stopped going to school except now and then. And as a result, it took me 20 years to graduate from college. By the time I graduated, having taken classes at lunch and after work sometimes, I was the city editor of the Detroit News, which at that time had a circulation of about 700,000, which is unheard of these days in newspapers. Those were the days, as they say. So several decades after that, I worked in Detroit, I worked in Pittsburgh, I worked in Gary, Indiana, as a suburban reporter, a politics writer, a crime reporter, a court reporter, city editor, auto editor in Detroit, a lot of different things, a national editor, project editor. Pretty much couldn't keep a job. And I had a lot of fun. covered the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, covered the Chrysler Corporation bankruptcy, presidential elections, a triple beheading in Detroit, World Series in the U.S. Open at Oakland Hills. It was a lot of fun. It's sometimes said that being a journalist has a front row seat on history, and I think that's certainly true. It's also said sometimes that being a newspaperman is the most fun you can have with your clothes on. That's debatable, I think. I came to Columbia in 1998 to be editor of the State, and when I came, some colleagues said, geez, do you think it'll be newsy enough in South Carolina? Oh my God. Strom was still alive. There was a lot going on. But anyone who went through 2015 in South Carolina knows that it's newsy enough. It was an extraordinary year. The magnitude and the importance of news was staggering. It challenged the resources of the state, and it challenges the resources of all the media in this community. When a newspaper is really doing its job, and it's really doing it right, it's a mirror to the community, reflecting the good, the bad, the glad, and the sad. I submit that's exactly what we did at the state last year. Just think back for a minute as to what went on last year. In February, a respected professor at the university was shot, killed by his estranged wife, who then killed herself. Something like that had never happened on campus before. In March, the women's basketball team made it to the Final Four, had a fantastic year, and we all enjoyed that. In June, the city of Charleston, the state of South Carolina, the nation and the world were shocked and saddened by the massacre of 9 churchgoers in Charleston at the hands of a horribly misguided young man from the Midlands. In July, the nation and the world watched South Carolina again, as an honor guard, removed a controversial flag, an emotional symbol, from the State House grounds, ushering in a new era of tolerance and understanding. A year ago this week, we grieved the fatal shooting of a Forest Acres police officer while on patrol. And we endured the historic flooding that turned the Midlands and much of South Carolina upside down. Then we saw the retirement of the winningest coach in USC football history. And then finally, with eyes on a different football team, the Clemson Tigers went undefeated before losing in the national championship. Again, bringing props to South Carolina. It was a remarkable year for the good, the bad, the glad, and the sad. What struck us at the state newspaper was the amazing resilience and grace of South Carolinians through all of this. The year was so profound that in November, you may remember this, we produced this book called Community of Heroes. And as we were putting this together to try to capture everything that had happened during this incredible news year, we really struggled to come up with a title for it. We just couldn't capture it. So finally, what we did was we took inspiration from someone who was personally struck by the tragedy. In planning the content for the book, I had asked the widow of Forest Acres police officer Greg Alia if she would write a short article for us. Those of you familiar with Kassy, I know are familiar with her courage and character that was demonstrated in the wake of the tragedy. She graciously agreed to write it, in part to thank South Carolinians who had been so kind to her and her family. And when I received her article, I knew we had the title for the book. Here's what she wrote. She said, "Events over the past year have shown that the people of South Carolina are one community. We place love and support for others above our own needs. We reject reactions of hatred and violence. Through our actions, we continue to honor my husband's legacy of service. We will continue to thrive as a community of heroes." It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you. She is a special person, for sure. You'll hear in a minute. So we all got through an emotional year by pulling together rather than pulling apart. The newspaper provided an opportunity to chronicle that. And I would tell you that being a member of Rotary and getting the benefit of visiting with y'all and the people who come in and describe the issues and concerns, successes and challenges in this community, I think informs me better, and I hope informs the people who read our paper a little bit better. So thank you for that.
Keep getting more than I expect, and I think all of you feel the same way. That was wonderful. Thank you, Mark. The next thing is health and happiness. Wes Hickman will cheer us up a little bit. Help.
Good afternoon, everybody. So many of you know that I'm the University of South Carolina's Chief Communications Officer. I spend most of my days trying to figure out how to get Mark and his editors to cover us. This morning I'm trying to figure out how to follow him because that was fantastic. So a couple of things. First off, if anybody has picked up the state newspaper today, you do know it's the anniversary of the floods. And we had a few people in our club that were directly impacted by that. And so we just wanted to take a minute this morning to remind everybody there are still a lot of people in our community that are affected and suffering because of the floods that happened, and to take a minute to remember them in your thoughts and prayers as you go about this week. In other news, I think most people in this room probably know that fellow Rotarian Leona Plow passed away last week. She wasn't a member of this club, but she was a Rotarian, so we want to keep her family in our prayers this week. Alana Jordan, who is a member of our club and who is our new communications director, she's been put on bed rest. It's a difficult time for her and her new baby, or baby to come, and so please keep her and her family and her soon-to-be-born child in your thoughts and prayers as well. On a happier note, another person who is affiliated with this club that you're all familiar with, Harris Pastides, the university president, he was named one of the Fulbright Foundation's inaugural Global Changemaker Award recipients for a lifetime of achievement as a Fulbright alumni. That's to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Fulbright program. And then finally, just as we think about the floods and wrap up this week, the University of South Carolina is hosting a multi-institution, multidisciplinary research program this Friday that will be held at the Convention Center for any of you that want to go in and learn a little bit more about the flood recovery, and some of the things that we've learned now as researchers and as emergency responders over the last year. There are people involved from all sorts of institutions across the state, and so I think there's like 40 different presentations. It starts at 9 o'clock on Friday morning. Feel free to drop by. I know the website says you had to register by last Friday, but if you have any issues, let me know, and we can probably take care of that. Very quickly, let me put in a plug for health and happiness. We have a cadre of about 20 or 25 people who do this on a regular basis, and we are always looking for new faces. And in the past, I've asked if anyone wants to volunteer to do it, to please let me know. And I'm going to ask that again, but with a twist. If you know anyone, we have a lot of new members that have joined our club over the last year. If you know of anyone that you would like to see up here, please let me know. Nominate them, and then I'll get in touch with them and let them know. Today we had a very special program. We were going to try to get everyone's favorite singing attorney to come up here and bless us with his gift of song, but we thought he was going to be in court, so you're stuck with me. I was sitting around over the weekend and recovering from the political news of the week, and I was thinking to myself, what am I going to say to these folks? Maybe help cheer them up a little bit. And I had a cold beverage in my hand, set it down on the coffee table, on a coaster, mind you, and it hit me. I had just bought this set of coasters on my last trip to DC, and they have some humorous sayings about politics and politicians, some of which you've probably heard, but I'll go for them anyway. Here we go. The difference between death and taxes is death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets. That's Will Rogers. No man's life, liberty, or property are safe while the legislature is in session. Mark Twain. I think this is my favorite. When they call the roll in the Senate, the senators do not know whether to answer present or not guilty. That was Theodore Roosevelt. finally, I think everyone has heard this one. It's another Mark Twainism. Politicians in diapers must be changed often and for the same reason. Thank you all very much. If you're interested in doing this, let me know.
Thank you, Wes. Now, past President Howell will come up and do the honor of inducting 2 new members and 1 returning member to our club today.
If you guys could join us up front, line up with your sponsors. I was called into duty this morning, so I'm going to probably end up doing my best impression of Les, our old president, so y'all forgive me for that. Columbia Rotary Club is continuing to grow, and our membership is continuing to bring in great folks. Today we have 3 members. I'm going to introduce Kirk Litton first. Kirk was a member of the club a couple years ago and has come back and rejoined, so he's a familiar face to all of you. Let me tell you a little bit about him now. Kirk is the managing partner of the Midlands Media Group, which I think includes the dude, is that right? Where's Rusty? I don't know if you did that on purpose. That's what happens up here. Nobody knows whether it's on purpose. There you go. Anyway, the dude, 94.3. He was a member here from 2012 to 2015. He has a BA in Behavior and Social Science from the University of Maryland at College Park. His background, he had 14 years with CBS Radio in Washington, D.C., as well as with Radio 1 for 4 years. And he was previously the president of Hometown Columbia Media, 3 years here. He's a member of South Carolina Broadcasters Association. He's involved in a group called World Help, a faith-based global humanitarian organization. He likes to go to concerts, live concerts. He obviously loves radio. He says he loves golf. He's like the rest of us. He's not very good. We'll see at the next tournament. He's been married for 16 years to Katie Litton. They have 3 children, Madison 12, Mackenzie 9, and Mason 6. And he also has parents who've come south that live in Myrtle Beach. So please welcome Kirk Litton. And Lanier, thank you for sponsoring him again. Okay, now we have Christopher Hinchy. Chris, if you'll step forward. I'm not sure I'm supposed to call you Chris, but I'm calling you Chris anyway, so I hope that's okay. Christopher Hinchy. He's married to Heather Hinchy. They live at 2717 Bernie Drive in Columbia. His hometown, oh, I don't have to read that. Sorry.
Lester would be proud.
I know, I'm trying to get a little bit of that out here. He is employed at Heathwood Hall, where he is the head of school. I assume that's a fancy name for being like you're the big cheese there, and everybody comes to you, right? You're the man. He resides at 3000 South Beltline. He is educated with a BS in biology from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. An MALS science degree somehow at Wesleyan University in Middleton, Connecticut. And educational school leadership at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. He grew up in Norwich, Connecticut, played basketball and baseball in high school, basketball in college at Trinity. He was the captain of his senior year, and he taught and administrated 2 boys' boarding schools in Connecticut for 19 years. And he is a member of Trinity Cathedral and found his way down here as quick as he could. He is interested in visiting the shoreline, working out, and reading biographies. As I said, he's married to Heather, and he has 3 children, Ryan, Jack, and William, 12, 9, and 6 years old, respectively. And Chris, we're very, very glad to have you here with us in the Columbia Rotary Club. Carol Farrington. Carol, step forward for just a moment. Carol is married to Richard. They reside at 302 Laren Lane in Lexington. She is employed as the principal at the Midlands Middle College. She graduated from Appalachian State University with a Bachelor of Science in Boone, University of South Carolina, a master's degree in educational administration. She's a longtime public school educator. She's been a principal at the Midlands Middle College and at South Carolina Public Charter High School, a member of the South Carolina Association of School Administrators, and attends Lexington United Methodist Church. She likes quilting, reading, and gardening. She has one son, Richard Douglas Farrington Jr., and a daughter-in-law, Stephanie, and two grandsons, Asa and Graham. Carol, we welcome you to the Columbia Rotary Club. Wouldn't mind turning around and facing me. This is where I'm supposed to act very presidential, ex-presidential for the Rotary Club. I wanted to ask though, any past presidents sitting in the room, if y'all would stand up for a moment, don't be shy. Any past presidents? No. I didn't want you to clap for them. What I wanted you guys to know is there's a lot of people in this group that have ties to Rotary going way back. I personally have been in since 1992. As a club, Mike would say, my favorite thing is the four-way test. That's something I would, encourage you to memorize. We say it occasionally, not from memory, that's why we have it up here so everybody can read it, but it really is something that helps you kind of guide your life. It's a club where all faiths are welcome. In your faith, you're welcome to express yourself, but we all show respect for each other, and we really want people also to act according to these four principles, so it's a big part. There's a lot of overwhelming things about Rotary that you won't learn in the first year, or for some of us it took us 10 years. But the work that goes on around the world is really overwhelming, and you're part of the leading club in Columbia. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary this December. I hope y'all will join in to what we're doing here in Rotary Club. Get on perhaps a health and happiness committee or other committees and dive right in, because it's definitely worth being part of Columbia Rotary. I'm sure there's a fireside chat scheduled at John's sometime soon, and Debbie will let you guys know when that is, but they'll dig in a little bit deeper about some of the details for Rotary. But for now, enjoy the fellowship and enjoy the food and continue to do all the good work you're doing in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome again to all of our new members and one old member returning. In a matter of keeping up with the time, I'm going to go right ahead and introduce Carrie, who will introduce our speaker today.
Good afternoon. I don't want to take any more of Kassy's time, but I did feel that I needed to mention our social on Monday night, October the 10th at Gregg Park from 5 to 7, yes? And I need some folks in this room to sign up to make desserts. I know everybody here, like their grandma knows how to make something, they pass down a recipe. Please, I need 10, 15 people. If you guys would kind of step up to the plate and help me out with that, please email me. There's a sign-up sheet out at the Health and Happiness table on your way out if you'll sign up for it. Otherwise, I'm going to call you and beg you to do it. So I hope to see everybody there. We won't have a regularly scheduled meeting here next Monday, so if you need directions, they'll be on the website. Everything you need to know will be sent out this Friday, so please make plans to be there. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker. So I first met Kassy, Alia. I first met her. She and I were both attending a Lexington Town Council meeting a few months ago. And I was there to accept a gigantic donation for my leadership project, and she was there to give money back to the community in a check presentation for her foundation, Heroes of Blue. And I sat and I watched her, and we of course all knew who she was, because, which has to be kind of weird that everybody knows who you are. But I knew who she was, and I watched her as she sat with her son, who is just precious, And, you know, she was trying to wrangle him in council chambers, and it was, you know, just a long meeting. And I was really impressed with her strength. I was impressed with her grace. And, you know, I said, I'd really like to hear more about her. But we all know her because she, this past Friday, marked the 1-year anniversary of the death of her husband, Forest Acres police officer Greg Alia. He lost his life in the line of duty. And to honor the memory of her late husband, Kassy founded Heroes in Blue to promote community and police relations and to provide support for families of fallen officers. Here to tell us more, the president and founder of Heroes in Blue, Kassy Alia.
An honor to be here. I mean, I'm following the presentations that have happened so far, in particular those from Mr. Lett. I'm blown away, and I'm truly honored to learn more about this great organization. And I feel hopefully the message is a valuable one today. I think from what I've heard, it sounds like he'll probably be speaking to the choir, preaching to the choir, I guess, and but hopefully it adds some value as we think about the difficult things that are happening in our country right now and how we can unite together to be a voice for positive change moving forward. So I am the president and founder of Heroes in Blue, and with me I have one of our board members, Pam Scott, who's brought a friend along with Ginger Lee, who works with the Department of Education. So thanks for welcoming us today. Clicker. As we've already acknowledged, today marks some very sad anniversaries. Today was the 1-year anniversary of when we laid my husband to rest, and it's also the anniversary of when the flood that ravaged Columbia began. And when I was thinking about how to reflect on those tragedies, our state's motto rang true in my ears: Dum Spiro Spiro, while I breathe I hope. And I'm sure, knowing the audience here, everyone knew that was our state motto before. Perhaps I'm embarrassed that I'm a state northern transplant, so I give myself some credit. But those words, I think, are so fitting. As Mr. Lett acknowledged, we are a state that has been met with tragedy, and we have shown in every instance that we rise above with love, resilience, and a call for unity. And so as we think about moving forward about how we address our current state, in particular those revolving around police, I think we can harness that strength, that love and resilience to think about how we can be voices for change in this movement. So this is my husband, this is Greg. Greg was my hero long before Columbia called him a hero. Greg and I met in 2008 at a bar in 5 Points. I don't know how many people still meet at bars, but he had a funny pickup line, but I was like, who is this guy? So I stayed all night talking to him and left without giving my number. And I actually ran into him at the grocery store the next day. From there, we went on our first date, and I don't know if I believe in love at first sight, but if there is such a thing, that was it. So Greg was my hero, not really for how he died, but for how he lived, for the values he stood for what he represented, not only as a law enforcement officer, but as a man. And Greg and I would talk a lot about the growing tension around police, and in particular police-community relations. And I will never forget standing there in my kitchen with Greg, and we were talking about one of the more recent police shootings that had come up, and I was asking him what he thought about it, and he said, Kassy, for every one negative story you hear in the news, there are thousands of positive interactions happening daily that go unnoticed. And so fast forward to a little over a year ago, last year, when he died. You know, I felt a lot of emotions over the last year, but I'm proud that anger and hate have not been among the most prevalent. And really, there was only a brief moment when I really felt anger, and it was when he first died. I felt anger at thinking that what the national message was telling me was that my husband's sacrifice and his death wasn't appreciated. And now our community has quickly transformed that view, and as I will continue to reiterate, our community is outstanding and a model for how we move forward with this change. But at the time, I didn't realize that. And so, At 3 a.m., after he died, I was in a Facebook post, I asked for two things. First, I asked that people share stories about my husband so my son could learn about the man his father was. And secondly, I asked that people everywhere share stories about cops doing good things. I said that my husband was a hero and that many other cops are too, and I proposed using the hashtag Heroes in Blue to help promote those positive stories. Since then, that hashtag has grown. It went from a hashtag to a Facebook post to a community-driven initiative with our Feed an Officer campaign last December, which coordinated people could go and purchase lunches for officers that we delivered on Officer Greg Alia Day last December 14th, and we were able to feed 210 officers across 14 stations and give out over 3,500 gift certificates that all went back to local restaurants, and that's really a testament to the community's desire to show appreciation to law enforcement. In March, we were incorporated as a charitable nonprofit in the state of South Carolina, and actually that exact same day, Officer Alan Jacobs was killed in Greenville. I got the news as I was leaving the Secretary of State's office. Our organization coordinated a GoFundMe campaign, which raised over $193,000 for his family. So Heroes in Blue is growing tremendously, and that's in large part because what it says to me is that there are people out there everywhere who have a passion and desire for positive change and are jumping on board the movement towards those goals. So our mission with Heroes in Blue is to promote community and police relations through empathy and action, and to provide support for members and families of fallen officers. We have 4 primary action areas. One, to promote awareness of positive policing efforts and positive interactions between community and police. Our second is to increase feelings of appreciation for law enforcement officers and their families, and really driving community-driven efforts to do so. Our third is to promote community building. So we have learned so much about the tremendous efforts of law enforcement to do community outreach, and we want to support more of that to happen, to really build trust and improve perceptions of law enforcement efforts. And our fourth is to provide tragedy response immediately when it occurs. So there are long-term social support organizations, and we really focus on that immediate tragedy response. So Heroes in Blue is an organization of love. We call for unity. Everyone who's been involved with Heroes in Blue so far is committed to being part of that positive movement to bridge community and police relationships. As our name connotes, we take that from a law enforcement perspective. So when thinking about where we bridge the gaps in police and community relationships, we come from the angle of advocating for reinforcing the good that police officers do, and really calling for ways to support efforts that are ongoing by law enforcement to reach out to the community. But we really support broadly this mission of unity and finding ways to build empathy and really take action to make change happen. So this is an example of one of our ways for promoting and reinforcing the good. We have an event coming up actually this Friday called a Night of Honor. And it is a medieval themed celebration of police and community. And it's medieval not only because my husband's best friend had this idea of how we can really reinforce these values around police, but more importantly, when we said we want to honor the values that good policing stands for, these values of service, compassion, duty, honor. And so the idea is that we're going to be uniting both law enforcement officers and citizens who have been nominated by local police departments for outstanding acts of service. So my in-laws will be presenting the Officer Gregory Alia Award to an outstanding citizen, and Marcus Lattimore will be presenting the Citizen Hero Award, and we really have a tremendous night planned. But I digress. This picture is an image of we interviewed and took pictures with all of our nominees, and just the stories that we've heard about these really tremendous everyday acts of compassion are amazing. My husband, yes, he died doing a tremendous act of service, one final act, but it was really the stories we heard about him, what he did every day. There was a story came out I didn't even know about how he purchased a hotel room for a homeless woman, for example. I had no idea until that story came out. And even our logo represents, it's an image of a police officer tying a child's shoe, and that's based on a story that I was told about my husband tying a child's shoe that really transformed, and the child apparently loves police now because of it. So it's these everyday acts that often go unnoticed that we reinforce. The Night of Honor is it's raising money for our overall mission, but in particular it's raising money for what we're calling the Compassionate Acts program. So police come face to face with the worst needs in the community every day, and there are many efforts that happen. You hear the stories about how police will buy a car seat for someone that they pull over instead of giving them a ticket, or I've heard through these stories officers helping to rebuild homes for people when their homes were collapsing in. We want to support more of those good deeds to happen. And so what we're focusing on initially is small departments of 25 or less that are serving predominantly rural or lower income populations, and help them provide a venue for when they identify a need in the community, that we can be able to provide grants and resources to help build trust and address needs locally. So these are some of the ways that Heroes in Blue really is making an effort to help bridge this gap. I'm really grateful, tremendously grateful for the diverse support that we've received for Heroes in Blue. And again, I think this is a testament to the tremendous amount of love that exists and people really wanting to call for positive change. So one of the individuals who's helping us is a PhD student in public health. She comes from a background in policy. Her passion is really around social justice related to violence in community, and really violence that focuses on youth. And she's helping us in doing a broader needs assessment around the current state of community police relationships. And we had a meeting the other day, and I was talking to her, and she said, she was talking to me very bluntly, which as I'm very open to challenging, in some ways I value more the challenging perspective, and she was challenging me even on how our name could offend some people, just even advocating that police could be Heroes in Blue could be offensive in this current climate. She looked at me and she said, "Kassy, this is the worst and the hardest time to do something like this." And I told her, that's exactly why we need this type of organization. That's exactly why we need this type of change. So when I first got started, we were talking and I said, we are gonna help people show appreciation for police. So I started talking to police, and I hear that happens all the time. And if anyone follows any of the the departments on social media, you'll see all the time how people show appreciation to police. So then my next step was, we are gonna help police outreach to communities. That happens all the time. So I started talking to Columbia Police Department, and I just learned recently that they are one of 15 agencies in the country that are being studied for best practices in community policing. I had a meeting with Senator Tim Scott, his chief of staff came down, and we had representatives from county, more city and township, smaller departments. I speak with the chief of staff, and I was blown away hearing about all the great things they're doing. Richland County has a board that's made up of citizens that drives the hiring of all their deputies, and they call them whenever an incident occurs. I heard a story from the chief of Springdale who told me about last year they came across an illegal immigrant family, and they were terrified when they saw them, and instead they learned that they didn't have beds, so they all gave each of the kids beds and bought each of their kids 5 Christmas presents, and what that does to transform relationships. So my point being that these community outreach activities happen every day. So after learning about this, I'm like, okay, so what's really going on? I've talked to so many people in the last year. I've talked to families of law enforcement officers. I've had wives cry on my shoulder. I've talked to police. I've learned about the amazing things that they do and their interactions and their experiences as law enforcement officers. I've talked to community leaders who advocate for the pain experienced by the minority community while also calling for more relationship building with police. I've talked to people who have described experiences of being unjustly treated, and I've talked to others who have talked about when they were very surprised when they weren't. Actually, I want to share a story about one of those cases right now. So this is a picture of Shay Harley. Shay is a radio host. He does podcasts that are really focused on education and empowerment within the Black community, but he really tries to take a very open and diverse perspective. So I met Shay actually just downtown one day, And we started talking, and he told me about a story and interaction he had with my husband. He was called to a meeting at the Seafood Academy right at Richland Mall. He walked into the meeting, and the door was left unlocked. So he felt a panic. He was like, oh my gosh, like it's unlocked, what do I do? If I stay here, they may think I'm breaking in. If I leave, people could break in. And as he was walking out, he ran into my husband. And he felt a panic. He's a black man coming out of an open restaurant thinking he could, in the current climate, it's cause for fear for him. And he described just how tremendously my husband treated him, how respectfully he was treated, and how that really impacted his perspective and perceptions about police. And Shay, in this post, he just shared this yesterday, this is him in front of a sign, my husband's street sign. He says that I choose to be an agent of healing and change. And I thought those words were so beautiful. And I wanted to reflect a little bit about what it means to be an agent of change and healing. So that's a story of Shay reaching out and being open to a diverse perspective and seeing the good in police. And over the last year, something that I've really actively tried to do is listen to all voices, but in particular, really have open ears when I listen to people who have very diverse and at times challenging perspectives to my own. And so through all this listening, I have a lot more listening to do. Here are some of the reflections I have. You know, we, in this current climate, which is it's tragic for everyone, I'm sure your hearts break, as do mine, as does mine. And you hear people all the time say, we need change, and that other comments around like that silence is consent. And generally speaking, I wholeheartedly agree with those statements. I think that we must find change, we must seek change, and we must speak out in support of that change. But when we do, there are some thoughts that come to mind. So what is the change that you desire? What is your voice in that change? And when you speak, does what you say promote or inhibit healing and true positive change? You know, there's so much pain out there, but there is also so much love. And we must call for change, and in it we must reject, as we have as a state for so long, we must reject all forms of hate as we call for that positive change. So some of the main reflections I had in talking to many diverse people is that our goals are generally more similar than they are different. That change really starts small, and it starts with each of us. And that the pathway to change starts with empathy and compassion. I think this is so true. The more that we humanize one another, the more that we tell stories. And I admire the state for really seeking to tell the stories of the people that are impacted. And that's one example. But really humanizing one another and understanding each other's experiences, what I think is a first step towards positive change. So I love this quote by Mother Teresa that says, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. So moving forward, and I mean, as I said, I'm preaching the choir, I'm here with a tremendous group of people, and I'm continually blown away by all the amazing things that happen in our community. But I think moving forward, just as we encourage other people to think about what your role is as a ripple, and how do your impacts either ripple positivity and love, or ripple hate and pain. So I hope, thank you again for welcoming me here today. I have some ways to get involved with Heroes in Blue. You can just start with following and sharing our Facebook page and sharing a positive story of a police officer or a police-citizen interaction with us. We do welcome donations, and we're currently working on finalizing our 501c3 status, so that should be here shortly. And we also are looking for volunteers. So we have our first community meeting on October 16th at the Forest Acres Police Station at 4 p.m. Thank you so much again for welcoming me.
Kassy, our community is so proud of your husband and for the work you're doing going forward to honor him and to work through your foundation and hopefully make change that's obviously greatly needed. And we thank you so much for being here today and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you. Well, one thing we'll do for you here, we'll wring your emotions out at this place. You come here and we'll we'll figure out a way to get all of your energy out. That was special, and Mark, thank you as well for your words. That was very special and an interesting lead-in to our speaker today. I want to remind you that we will not have a meeting on Monday. Monday, October 10th, there will be no meeting. Instead, we will meet for a social. And if there's anybody, I think, Robert, you still need volunteers to help you if you put your staff together. Is he still here?
I'm right here. You always use a helping hand if you want to help pull some barbecue. You come about an hour and a half before the social starts at 5. And I bet we'll have a good time. And please talk it up to your family, friends, guests, because we want to have a really good show.
Are we required to wear cowboy boots?
Cowboy boots optional. And Kassy, you can come too.
It will be fun, guaranteed it will be fun. So hope all of you can make it. That is your meeting for the day, so it will count as your meeting. So please come if you can. And also, oh yes, and we have a Centennial Committee meeting after this meeting. So those of you in here who are involved in that, I hope you'll come right up to this table. Our fearless leader, Ann Walker, is back in the corner, and she's going to make sure you don't escape. She's guarding the door back there. And Lane Legan is coordinating our Harvest Hope effort on the 12th. And so please see Lane or email him, let him know, because we do have to get lists. We have to give Harvest Hope a list of people who are going to come. So please be in touch with him. A lot of action later in the week, next week, so hopefully you'll all be there and we'll have some fun together. So I thank you. We'll end our meeting today with song. Russell.